I colored a picture of Abraham Lincoln after receiving several online requests. The research aspect was fascinating, as I hadn't colored someone of such historical importance before. The finished picture resonated with many people, and some commented that it helped them see Lincoln as a real person for the first time. Inspired by this impact, I ambitiously decided to work on all the U.S. presidents. James Barrage, the first 5 presidents. George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and James Monroe were the first 5 U.S. presidents, serving from 1789 to 1825. Unfortunately, none were photographed as they passed before photography became common. John Quincy Adams, 6th president. John Quincy Adams served from 1825 to 1829. He was the first son of a president, John Adams, to hold office. After losing to Andrew Jackson in the 1828 election, Adams became a congressman until his death in 1848. He was the oldest U.S. president to be photographed, with the daguerreotype taken in his Massachusetts home by Philip Haas. Andrew Jackson, 7th president. Andrew Jackson served 2 terms, 1829 to 1837, after defeating John Quincy Adams. He signed the Indian Removal Act and survived the first presidential assassination attempt in 1835. Jackson became the only president to pay off the national debt in 1835. A daguerreotype taken by Matthew Brady in 1845, months before Jackson's death, was restored by James Barrage, who compared it to an engraving to correct some details. Martin Van Buren, 8th president. Van Buren, Jackson's vice president, became president in 1836. He was the first president born after the U.S. declared independence and spoke Dutch as his first language. His presidency was marred by the Panic of 1837. After leaving office, Van Buren became an abolitionist and supported Lincoln during the Civil War. His photo, taken in the late 1850s, was by Matthew Brady. William Henry Harrison, 9th president. William Henry Harrison's presidency in 1841 lasted only 31 days before his death from pneumonia. His inauguration photo is lost, but a daguerreotype from 1850, based on a painting, survives. He was the first sitting president to be photographed. John Tyler, 10th president. John Tyler assumed the presidency after Harrison's death in 1841. He was unpopular, with his cabinet resigning and being expelled from the Whig Party. He left office in 1845. His photo, taken between 1845 and 1860, is credited to Edwards and Anthony. James K. Polk, 11th President of the United States. James K. Polk, 11th President. James K. Polk became president after defeating Henry Clay in the 1844 election. During his presidency, the U.S. expanded significantly with the annexation of Texas, the Oregon Territory, and the Mexican Cession. Polk died just 3 months after leaving office. This daguerreotype was taken by Matthew Brady's studio on February 14, 1849. Zachary Taylor, 12th President. Zachary Taylor, a popular military figure, became the 12th president in 1849, but refused to be sworn in on a Sunday, taking the oath the next day. He was the first president with no prior political experience and died 16 months into his term. His daguerreotype, taken after the Mexican-American War, was produced by Southworth and Hawes. Millard Fillmore, 13th president. Millard Fillmore succeeded Taylor in 1850 and served until 1853. He was the last Whig Party president and is known for the Compromise of 1850, which temporarily calmed the slavery debate. His photo was taken by Matthew Brady between 1855 and 1856. Franklin Pierce, 14th president. Franklin Pierce, elected in 1852, expanded U.S. territory with the Gadsden Purchase. His support for the Kansas-Nebraska Act and Fugitive Slave Act alienated anti-slavery groups, leading to his loss of the 1856 nomination. His photo was taken by Southworth and Hawes during his presidency. James Buchanan, 15th president. James Buchanan won the 1856 election, defeating John C. Fremont and Millard Fillmore. His support for the Dred Scott decision and attempts to admit Kansas as a slave state increased tensions leading to the Civil War. His photograph was taken by Matthew Brady's New York studio,